Hey guys, Stephanie here. I have a question for you. Promise to be honest, okay? Have you ever had a crush on one of your teachers? If yes, I guess you could somehow relate to my story. I'm going to tell you all about my super fine boyfriend, Joseph. I put so much effort into winning him over, but trust me, he was worth every second. So this all began last year when I was a sophomore at college, majoring in performing arts. When it came to boys my own age, talk about boring. I didn't pay much attention to them as they were so childish and honestly, they just annoyed me. If I had to choose between dating some immature jerk or staying single forever, there was no contest. One day, I was over at my bestie Susie's place. We've been friends since forever, and even though we now went to different colleges, we still met up loads. As we were eating Susie's delicious homemade burgers, we talked about college, outfits, boys, that kind of thing. That's when Susie told me all about the new professor at her college called Joseph. She described him as extremely handsome, tall, intelligent, sporty, and he owned a motorcycle. He sounded far too good to be true, so I convinced myself there must be a catch. Perhaps he had bad acne, or maybe he had a wife and 3 kids or something. He doesn't have acne, he's not married, and he looks like this. She held up her phone. On it was the image of a seriously hot guy. I grabbed the phone off her and scrolled through his social media pictures. Jeez, this guy was so fine. So what if I'd never met him? I knew I needed to make him mine. I needed a plan, so I begged Susie to help me out. She thought I was crazy, but hey, she'd been besties with me forever, so she knew I like to go all out on things. She snuck me into class with her. It was economics. Boring, but staring at Joseph was worth it, and his voice was so dreamy. I knew I couldn't just sit there. I needed to make Joseph notice me. After class, I walked over to him, swished back my hair, and in my cutest voice said, "Hey, great class, but there are a few points I'm struggling to understand. Perhaps you could help me out?" He looked a bit awkward, but he agreed. I blabbed out a few questions about the class, and he waffled out some answers which I didn't understand. I knew I'd have to do better than this to keep his attention, so I continued to sneak into the class. One time, I pretended to fall out of my chair and feigned blacking out. I even dabbed white powder under my eyes before class so I looked extra weary. My hope was that he'd rush over to me and carry me to the infirmary. But no, some stupid other guy had taken that chance from him. Worse still, this doofus was so clumsy that as he was carrying me through the doorway, he knocked my arm against the door frame. Ouch! I bit down on my lip and kept my eyes closed. Jeez, why had my amazing plan turned into a disaster? Ugh! I opened my eyes just in time to witness the nurse coming at me with a huge needle. I screamed out, jumped off the bed, and told her I was feeling much better now. Despite my failed plan in pretending to be sick, I immediately came up with another one. One day, I punctured my own bike tire, then pretended to sadly walk my bike to the parking lot and asked Joseph to give me a lift. He shook his head, said he was too busy, then whizzed off on his motorcycle. I stood there speechless. Worse still, I had to walk my bike all the way home. Another time, I waited until it was just him and me left in class. Then, on my way past him, I dropped my books. Then I said, "Oh no! How clumsy of me," as I bent down to pick them up. Oh yeah, I was also wearing my tightest pair of jeans. I didn't think that there's any way he could resist me in those, but he didn't even help me pick my books up. Instead, he coughed to clear his voice, then said, "Can you hurry up, please? It's my lunch break, and I haven't eaten since breakfast." Typical. I was there looking sexy, and all he could think about was his stomach. I wasn't going to give up now. I hadn't attended a bunch of yawn-inducing economics lectures for nothing. So, thanks to my social media snooping, I knew Joseph's birthday was coming up. On his actual birthday, I had a class with him. Talk about fate! So, I brought him a cake and made the entire class sing happy birthday to him. Then I announced I had a special birthday surprise for him, and I sang out Louis Capaldi's "Someone You Loved." The rest of the class whooped and cheered, but he just looked down at his desk. Okay. So this was getting frustrating. What did I need to do to get this guy's attention? Jeez, I tried everything already. That Friday, one of Susie's college friends was having a party, so I tagged along. I sat in the corner and moaned out to Susie how I felt like I was getting nowhere with Joseph. I just didn't get it. Whatever I did, he just didn't seem bothered. I moaned out, "Susie, should I keep flirting with him? He didn't even lay an eye on me. He was such a tough guy, you know? Like an old boot. In fact, a rock had more personality than he did." Then Susie gave me a sign, but I kept saying, "And maybe he was gay or something?" Like, you see, he showed no interest in girls. That's when Susie hit my arm, and when I looked up, I was completely shocked. Joseph was right there looking at me. While I froze in shock, he shook his head, then stormed off. Without even thinking, I immediately stood up, rushed after him, and apologized. He ignored me and hopped onto his motorcycle, so I jumped onto the back of it and refused to move. "Please, I didn't mean what I said. Please, just listen to me," I begged. In the end, he passed me a helmet and told me to put it on. I couldn't help but feel excited. I'd wanted to ride on the back of his motorcycle ever since I'd first seen a picture of him on it. OMG. Now it was actually happening! Okay, so this wasn't how I envisioned it, but still, this was amazing. And I made sure to hug my arms tightly around his waist, purely for safety purposes, of course. After about 10 minutes, he stopped at a deserted road. I thought he was going to shout at me, but instead, he turned around and smiled at me. Wow! Without the frown on his face, he looked even hotter. "So, what were you saying about me earlier?" he asked. Nothing. It was just a misunderstanding." "That's funny, because it sounded like you thought I had no personality, and, what was it? Oh, yes, you think I'm gay." I'm sorry. You might be gay. It doesn't matter if you are. You have a great personality." Suddenly, he leaned forward and kissed me. OMG, talk about amazing! I was shocked, but so happy, even though I didn't know what was going on. As soon as he pulled away, I pulled him back so we could continue kissing. Then he said, "I'm not gay, and I like to think I have a dazzling personality. I just like playing with you, but it seems like there must be a long time for you to be more mature. But it's okay. I'd train you then. Be my girlfriend." Turns out, he'd noticed me too, but he wanted to see what happened first. Also, he thought I needed to grow up a bit, as my stunts, although amusing, were a bit on the childish side. But he also found the amount of effort I went to get his attention flattering. He told me how he'd only shown up at that party as he'd overheard me talking about it at college, and he wanted to come just because of me. I don't go to his classes anymore, which gives me far more time to concentrate on my actual classes. But we are now an official couple, and I couldn't be happier. So this is the story of how I ended up with the hottest boyfriend known to mankind. My advice to you is to be bold in the pursuit of love. As if you just sit around waiting for it to drop on your doorstep, well, you'll be waiting forever. Go get him, Tiger! That's what I did, and it totally worked for me. So there's no reason why it can't work for you, too.
Have any of you ever worn braces before? If you have, I feel for you. I really hope your experience was better than mine. I thought braces would make my life so much better, but oh boy, was I wrong. It all started because of how ugly my teeth were. They were short and had such big gaps between them. My friends sometimes made jokes about them, and it really hurt my feelings. But I tried to hide how I felt and laugh along with them. Because my parents worked away all the time, I lived with my grandparents in New Jersey, and they never thought there was any problem with my teeth. They said they'd grow as I got older, but honestly, I couldn't handle the teasing anymore. Eventually, I decided to take matters into my own hands. Every time my parents sent me pocket money, I'd save every cent. By my senior year of middle school, I'd finally saved up enough money, and so I went to the dentist and asked him for braces. My dentist said I need to wear them for about 2 years, and I thought that wouldn't be such a big deal, right? I mean, a few of my friends had braces too, and they still looked pretty, but unfortunately, that wasn't the case for me. My teeth were so messed up that normal braces just wouldn't cut it. My one friend had recently got these invisible braces, so I asked my dentist if I could get the same ones, but he said I needed something more hardcore. I ended up with black iron braces, and they made me look even uglier than before. How stupid I'd been to think that braces would magically make my teeth better. My friends thought it was hilarious and said I looked like I had train tracks inside my mouth. Everyone was laughing at me, and slowly I started to distance myself from them. Those days were some of the worst of my life, and all I wanted was to run away where no one would know me. So after I graduated from middle school, I persuaded my parents to let me go live with them in New York. I figured that I could start again with a clean slate at my new school. But seeing as I still had 2 years to go with the braces, I needed to make a plan. I didn't want to be the kid everyone laughed at anymore, so I decided to fake being mute so that I could hide my braces. On the first day at my new school, I'd prepared a letter that said I was mute due to oral surgery affecting my larynx, and that I was in the recovery phase, but it could take years to heal. I even faked my parents' signatures. Luckily for me, they were too busy to take me to school on my first day, so everything was going to plan. I thought someone might be at least a little suspicious, but no one asked me about it. And even the teachers gave me sympathy and said everything would be okay, and I'd still do well in my classes. I couldn't believe it. I knew I had to be careful though. So I separated myself from the other kids so they wouldn't try and talk to me. I didn't even eat lunch in the cafeteria because I was too afraid people would see how embarrassing I looked when I ate. I seriously had to open my mouth wide and chew super carefully, and afterwards there was always chunks of food stuck in my braces. But ugly teeth aside, I actually wasn't bad looking. In fact, thanks to the braces, I'd lost 10 kilograms. So my body was looking quite good. If I didn't open my mouth, I was kind of pretty. And because I kept myself separate from everyone, there was an air of mystery about me. After a week or so, a few guys started approaching me, trying to flirt with me, but I just ignored them. I knew if I opened my mouth, it would be game over. I could see they thought I was a bit of a diva, but it was better than revealing my ugly secret. There was one guy called Jake that I secretly liked though, and I knew he liked me too, as he always tried to speak to me. But of course, I ignored him, and it made me feel so bad. Anytime he came up to me, I'd pretend to be busy or act like he was invisible. I wish I could just be honest with him, but then he wouldn't be into me. I mean, what guy wanted to date a girl with braces like mine? And as for the girls, they didn't like me one bit. One time, a girl in my class called Angela tried to ask me a question, and I just walked away from her. She shouted after me, asking me why I was being so rude, and said that no one had ever ignored her before. She was the most popular girl at school, and ever since that day, she started to treat me so badly. I heard her whispering to her friends that I should be at a school for disabled kids, and then one day she even came and told me that to my face. I was so upset. This school was just as bad as my old one. I didn't understand how people could be so mean. But that was nothing. It was about to get worse. One day, I woke up with a cold. I couldn't stop coughing and sneezing, but there was no way I could miss school as we had an exam that day. I decided to wear a face mask so no one would see my braces if I had to cough or sneeze. When I finished the exam, I was at my locker and suddenly the biggest sneeze came. I ended up sneezing 5 times in a row, and afterwards I said, "Jesus!" out loud as a reflex. Then I panicked. I was supposed to be mute and I'd just spoken. What if someone heard me? Well, someone did. I turned around and Angela was standing there with her friends. They were looking at me in shock, and Angela said, "I thought you couldn't speak, Then she walked towards me and reached out to pull my mask off. Suddenly, Jake appeared and stopped her. He told her to back off, and then he stood there protecting me. No one had done something so nice for me in years. That's when Jake and I started hanging out. We would go to the library, for walks in the forest, and even play piano together. I used a small notebook to write down whatever I wanted to say to him. And of course, I just smiled, never laughed when I was with him. But then one day, he leaned in to kiss me, and the worst thing ever happened. The thought of his lips touching the metal braces in my mouth made me disgusted with myself. So when his lips touched mine, I got such a fright I basically headbutted him. And when I realized what a stupid thing I was doing, blood was pouring out of his nose. Both of us frantically tried to stop the bleeding. I felt so ashamed of what I'd done that I had to try so hard not to cry in front of him, and he also blushed shyly. After that, it was hard to fully relax with him. Even though I liked him so much, I was so afraid that he'd catch a glimpse of my monster teeth and then break up with me. Little did I know what was just around the corner. One morning I was walking to my locker when I realized everyone was staring at me. I felt so self-conscious and didn't understand why they were all looking at me. And then I saw it. Plastered across my locker were tons of photos of me. And they were all of me from middle school, from when I hadn't worn braces to when I had it full of my mouth. They were the worst photos ever. I was ugly and fat in them, and I couldn't believe someone could be so cruel. As I stood there in shock, Angela walked up to me and said, "You're a liar, a monster pretending to be a mute little princess. Well, the truth is out now." Then she turned to everyone watching us and told them I really could speak. Turns out her cousin was in my old middle school. They'd been hanging out, and she told Angela that I wasn't mute and hadn't had any surgery and that I just had ugly teeth. When she triumphantly walked past me, my anger flared up, and for a moment I lost control. I rushed in and pushed her down the hallway. Then I jumped in to sit on her back and started pulling her hair. And then I saw blood, and that's the moment when I realized I'd taken it too far. Her front teeth had broken when she'd fallen. Everyone was taking photos. I was sitting on Angela's back, holding her hair, and my mouth was wide open, revealing hideous braces. Jake was also present in the crowd and looked at me in awe. I don't know if it was me or Angela who was more humiliating in this situation. After that, Angela had to wear big black iron braces just like me. The dentist said there were problems with her root canal, so she couldn't have implants. The only solution was wearing braces and hoping that her other teeth would move and fill the gaps. And my parents had to come to the school and apologize. And of course, I was suspended for what I did, not just for pushing Angela, but also the fact I forged my parents' signature. Jake never spoke to me again, which broke my heart. But what hurt even more was what happened a few weeks later. I found out Jake and Angela started dating. I couldn't believe it. I knew Angela was only doing it to get back at me, but it made me wonder, did that mean Jake didn't find girls with braces ugly? Why did I hide mine then? And there's one thing I still want to know. How do they kiss when Angela has a mouthful of braces?
Can you imagine what it's like to be so pretty that people actually bully you because of it? Most of you are probably thinking that being pretty is an amazing thing, but just wait until you hear my story. I'm Jasmine, and I'm 16 years old. And yep, I am indeed named after Princess Jasmine, because the moment I was born, my dad said I looked exactly like her. So growing up, I was naturally very pretty, and the older I got, the more the boys chased me. But I was oblivious to this. Just because I was pretty didn't mean I was arrogant about it. In fact, I was a very caring kid. I always liked to help people in my class and really didn't care about the way people looked. I wanted to help everyone. One time in 3rd grade, there were 3 boys fighting and I went to help them. But to my complete shock, they were fighting over me. Our teacher eventually broke up the fight and had to split them all up and make them sit on the opposite side of the classroom, away from me. I was so shocked. Why would people fight over me? Well, by the time I was in 5th grade, I'd gotten even prettier, and at one point, there were 5 guys fighting over me. One day, 2 of those guys, Jack and Tyler, were both running towards me from opposite sides of the playground. I was just standing there watching them come towards me, and I panicked and quickly jumped out of the way. They both ended up bashing into each other and fell over. Honestly, it was so funny. I helped them up, but inside, I was dying of laughter. Most girls would probably love getting attention like that, but it drove me crazy. I just wanted people to like me for who I was, not because I was pretty. Even though I got tons of attention from boys, the girls didn't like me. There was one girl called Mia who hated me so much, she actually bullied me. She would always go out of her way to do horrible things to me. Like this one time where she jumped on me in gym class and broke my right arm. She pretended it was an accident, but I know she deliberately did it. And obviously, I use my right arm for everything, so it was torture. I cried so much because for months I couldn't write anything, and writing was my most favorite thing in the world. And that wasn't the only horrible encounter with Mia. One time I was at the park with my big brother, and he left me alone on the swings so he could go hang out with his friends. As soon as he was out of sight, I saw Mia heading towards me. She looked angry, and I quickly closed my eyes because I was so scared. I thought she was going to hit me. But suddenly, I heard someone running, and I opened my eyes just in time to see my brother grab her arm to stop her from hitting me. He was protecting me, but then he took it too far. He hit her in the face so hard, he knocked her front tooth out. She was screaming and crying, and my brother just grabbed me and made me run out of the park with him. After that, Mia didn't bother me anymore. I moved up to middle school and never saw her again, but my life didn't get much better. You see, at my new school, the uniforms were so ugly. I went from being the pretty girl to a complete tomboy. We had to wear these red polo shirts with baggy nude pants. Honestly, it was not a good look for me. Sure, I was glad not to be the girl guys were fighting over anymore, but I didn't like feeling ugly in the uniform. Then, when we had the school dance, we were finally allowed to wear whatever we wanted. I decided to wear my favorite little black dress that showed off my curvy body. As soon as I walked through the doors into the dance, all eyes were on me. I couldn't believe how much of a difference my outfit could make. All the guys kept trying to get my attention, but I just wanted to dance. It was such a fun night, but the next day was crazy. I got to class and we had to hand in our essays. I went to give mine to the teacher, and when I was walking back to my seat, a girl called Paloa stopped me and said, "Jasmine, everyone knows your melons are fake. You had plastic surgery, didn't you?" She said it so loud, and everyone started laughing, even my friends. I was so embarrassed and just ran out of there crying. Why would she say something like that? To make matters even worse, when I eventually came back to my desk, I noticed someone had messed with my artwork. I love drawing, especially Dragon Ball characters, and I'd drawn a Goku that morning. Someone had ruined it by drawing fake boobs, and then underneath they'd written, "You are so fake." I honestly wanted to run out of there and never go back. People were being so mean. Suddenly, a guy called Peter, who was always quite horrible to me, grabbed the drawing and ripped it up. I didn't understand how people could treat me like this. The rest of my middle school life was pretty much the same. I felt miserable, and I thought finally high school would be better. But on my first day, I was sitting alone and I heard a group of girls whispering about me. They were all really pretty and popular, and I tried to ignore them, but two of them came over to me and sat on either side of me. I felt terrified, but suddenly one of them said, "Oh my God, you're so pretty. How come you're eating all alone? You can come sit at our table because you're pretty enough." After my middle school experience, I was so happy that people were being nice to me again. Soon I started hanging out with the pretty girls all the time, and the leader of the group, Ashley, she asked me if I had a boyfriend, and when I told her I didn't, she laughed and said, "Don't you worry, we'll find you one." But I didn't want them to find me one, because the more I hung out with them, the more I realized that the guys they liked were total troublemakers, and I wasn't interested in those type of guys at all. After a few weeks of hanging out with them, I realized they were too much. I didn't want to spend my days gossiping and being surrounded by drama. Just because I was a pretty girl didn't mean I had to hang out with the pretty girls. I heard there was a new kid at school, and the girls were all making fun of him for some reason. I didn't like what they were saying about him. And so the next day, I decided to go introduce myself and see if he was okay. Well, I have no idea why people were making fun of him. He was gorgeous. Drop dead gorgeous. But he was so shy, and so I just sat on a table near him and stared at him nonstop. I eventually plucked up the courage to go and introduce myself. "Hi, I'm Jasmine," I said. "Nice to meet you." Then he said, "I'm Chris. Hi." And after that, we got chatting, and I couldn't believe how much we had in common. I could see everyone staring at us chatting, but I didn't care. Chris said he'd worried that no one would want to be his friend, and I told him that I would be. After that, we started hanging out every day, and I quickly fell for him. He was kinda nerdy, but I liked that about him. One day, before Valentine's, he asked me what my favorite candy was. Then on Valentine's Day, he surprised me with flowers, a box of chocolates, and a teddy bear. Then a few days after, he gave me another surprise. He'd ordered all my favorite candy, Skittles, Sour Patch Kids, and Airheads. I was so happy. It was the most romantic thing anyone had ever done for me. And he wasn't interested in me just because I was pretty. He actually cared about me. We started dating soon after that, and then I had my first kiss. It was kind of funny because I'd never kissed anyone before, so I had no idea what I was doing, but it felt nice. And after a while, I really got the hang of it, and now we're so in love. It's been 7 months since we started dating, and I never could have imagined my life could be so good now. We're even planning to get married in the future. I know we're still young, but when you know, you know.
Hello, everybody. I'm Caitlin. My short height and young looks may make me look like a kid, but appearances can be deceptive. I'm actually 34 years old. I know it sounds crazy, but it's all down to my super rare condition called Turner syndrome. It's a disease that only females have. It means I only have one X chromosome, and as a result, it means I look far younger than I am. And I'm in the same height as your average 11-year-old. So even though I'm an adult, I pass for a kid. You may think this sounds great. Sure, I can go crazy in a candy store without raising suspicion, but other than that, looking way younger than I am is hard to live with. I'm the oldest of 3 kids. My bro Jeremy and sis Dayla may be younger than me, but because of my condition, they both look older than me and they tower above me. I'm going to take you back to when I was 16 and my parents noticed that not only did I look younger than Dayla, but I was shorter than her too. I told myself it was nothing. I was just a slow developer, that's all. But my mom thought otherwise, so she dragged me to 7 different doctors. Then voila, one of them diagnosed me with Turner syndrome. Naturally, neither me nor my family had ever heard of this condition before. I mean, come on, a disease that makes someone stay young forever? It sounds like something out of a movie. Relax, I'm not dying or anything, but it does mean I'll never look like an adult. I realize people spend a bunch of money to look young, yet here I am, doing it without even having to try. But trust me, looking like a little kid when you're not one can be problematic. For instance, high school was a nightmare. I had this one friend called Alice. At first, we were pretty inseparable, but as time passed and she aged and I didn't, she began to single me out and join the other girls in making fun of me. They pretended to make baby crying noises when I walked past them, and one of them even put a baby doll in my locker with a picture of my face stuck to it. I stopped being friends with Alice after that, and watched on with sadness as other girls my age started dating boys, but no guy ever noticed me. Like seriously, they literally didn't notice me, especially the tall ones. And for the few that looked down and saw me, well, they made corny jokes like, "Hey, Caitlin, how's the weather down there?" And, "Someone better call kindergarten as they're missing a kid." However bad the teasing got, Dayla and Jeremy were always there for me. From cheering me up when I felt down, to passing me the cookie jar off the top shelf. I may be small, but I'm determined. So I made it to college and ended up qualifying as a teacher. On my first day of my new job, I was extremely nervous, but I reassured myself that I could do this. On seeing me for the first time, my students were surprised and clearly confused. One of them spoke and said, "Excuse me, little girl, are you lost or something? Where's your mommy?" Wow, the nerve of that girl. As if she just said that. I decided to take a deep breath and said, "No, I'm your teacher. I may look like an 11-year-old child, but I assure you that I'm not." They all snorted and laughed, and one kid said, "Yeah, right." So I passed my ID card around the class. I couldn't help but smile as one at a time they looked down at my ID with shocked faces. Priceless. During my first class, I taught my students about Turner syndrome so they could understand it. After that, they were respectful toward me. Apart from this one boy who clearly viewed himself as the class clown. Then he said, "Maybe next time you should wear a chipmunk outfit, or maybe an elf costume because that will totally fit you." The whole class laughed. So I gave him 4 weeks detention. I can assure you there was no laughter after that, nor did anyone make any comments about my condition again. One lunchtime, I was sitting in the staff room when the science teacher named Henry came over and sat next to me. Then he smiled and said, "Hey, how's your first week going?" Talk about handsome. My legs instantly felt like a jelly. We started talking about my condition, and he was very sweet about it. "I don't mind. I studied Turner syndromes before. It's okay because I like you. It's who you are." His words made my heart flutter. He was so sincere and kind. We started hanging out more, and then we started dating. Don't tell anyone, but sometimes I found him so irresistible that I couldn't resist kissing him in the janitor's closet. Of course, my condition caused us some problems. One time, Henry and I were in a bar. I asked the bartender if I could have some vodka. He said, "Sorry, kiddo, you're too young to have some alcohol." Even when I showed him my ID, he still wouldn't serve me. Unbelievable. Another time we were kissing on a bench in the park. It was so romantic. Until some old lady screamed at us, "You sick pervert, how can you kiss a little girl?" To make it even more awful, 2 police officers showed up and I had to explain myself to them and show them my ID. Luckily, they believed me, and Henry wasn't arrested, but the old woman continued to give Henry dirty looks. Then, just when I thought things couldn't get any more awkward, we popped into the grocery store. Henry had just passed me the cereal, which I was too short to reach, when I heard someone behind me say, "Caitlin, is that you?" Oh boy, I recognized that voice. I turned around and, yep, it was my old childhood friend Alice. She smirked and said, "Wow, you haven't changed a bit." But I'm not surprised. You never change. I replied, "Don't you have somewhere else to be? I'm hanging out with my boyfriend." She gave a shocked look as she looked at Henry. "Wait, you're dating her? Isn't she, a bit on the short side for you?" He just shrugged and told her, "I don't care what you think of her, as she's the most amazing woman I've ever met." She flicked her hair and replied, "Why don't you date someone your own size? I mean, look at me. I'm beyond sexy." "Yeah, from space." I rolled my eyes. Everyone in the store started laughing at her. Now look who's embarrassed. You know what they say, payback's, well, you know the rest. Regardless of all this drama, Henry stuck by my side and continued to support me. He even arranged for our families to meet. We met up in a restaurant. When Henry's parents saw me, they were kind of surprised. His mom greeted me with a hug, but his dad just glared at me. My parents keep asking Henry questions while Dayla and Jeremy chatted with Henry's twin sisters about sports. Things were going fine until out of nowhere, Henry's dad slammed his hand on the table and said, "I can't take this anymore. You shouldn't date my son. He's too good for you. Your shortness is going to ruin his life." I tried to keep composed, but inside this hurt more than I can possibly express into words. Henry stepped in and said, "That's enough, Dad. You can't treat people like that just because they're different. Shame on you." Then he got down on one knee and took a ring out of his pocket. "Caitlin, I love you, and I always will. So will you do me the great honor of becoming my wife?" At first, I was speechless, but then I found my words and said, "Yes, yes, yes, I will marry you." I was crying with joy, and my family and his mom were clapping and hugging each other. But then Henry's dad shook his head in disgust. Then he stormed off. On our wedding day, Henry's dad refused to show up. I felt so bad for Henry, but he told me we shouldn't let his dad's bad choice ruin our perfect day. I was about to walk down the aisle when his dad burst into the room. Oh no, was he going to ruin the wedding? Everyone was staring at him, and I thought I was going to collapse from the shock of it all. But then he said, "I'm sorry for how I acted. It was wrong of me to judge you on your condition. I would very much like to be here for your wedding if you'll have me." I cried out, "Yes, of course, take a seat." Our wedding day was magical, and so was our life together. Things are still going well for Henry and me, and I'm now the happiest I've ever been. I may have the appearance of a child, and yes, my condition is never going to go away. But my life as an adult is amazing, and this is all thanks to the remarkable people I have in my life. I'm so fortunate to have them supporting me, and with them by my side, I'm able to find my inner strength and conquer any obstacles that get in my way, however big they may be. Hi, I'm Diane, and I'm 20 years old. I fell in love on the first day of college. I'm not even joking. I'd promised my mom I'd focus on my studies and wouldn't fall for any boys, but one look at Brett, and I broke that promise immediately. We had an instant connection, and pretty soon we were spending every waking moment together. I can't help but think that if I hadn't met him, maybe I'd never have found out the dark secret my mom and aunt had been hiding from me my whole life. You see, my mom raised me alone, and I had no idea who my dad was. Let's just say it seemed like my mom got around, so she really didn't want me to get into the same kind of situation as her. I decided to keep Brett a secret. She didn't need to know, right? When I went home for Christmas vacation, I missed Brett so much, but I couldn't let my mom know about him. So I'd wait until she went to bed before calling him. One night, she caught me, though. She must have gone to the bathroom, and suddenly I heard footsteps. She was standing right there. I didn't know how much she heard, but I was so embarrassed. I thought she'd grab the phone from me and tell me off, but instead, she just walked back to bed. It was so weird. In the morning, she was sitting at the kitchen table grinning and said, "Well, who is he then? Invite him over. Don't be shy." I couldn't believe it. I thought she'd freak out, but instead she wanted to meet him. She suggested we invited him over for dinner, as my aunt was also coming over that night. My mom and my aunt were like best friends and had basically raised me together, so I was excited for her to meet Brett too. He took the bus that afternoon, as he was desperate to see me, and my mom said he could stay in the spare room. As soon as my mom saw Brett, she grinned at me and whispered how handsome he was. Then we sat down to dinner and started chatting. My mom had so many questions for him, and it was a bit awkward. She wouldn't shut up, and it made her seem so nosy. She asked where he'd grown up, and what his mom and dad did, and even asked for their names and stuff. Meanwhile, my aunt just sat there quietly, and then at one point she got up from the table and went out into the garden. My mom ran after her, and Brett looked at me worried. I had no idea what was wrong. 10 minutes later, my mom came in and her expression had totally changed. She went from being warm and friendly to totally strict and cold. She looked at both Brett and I and said she decided I was far too young to have a boyfriend staying over, and then asked Brett to leave. I couldn't believe it. I mean, I was 20 years old. She was being so rude. So I said to her, "Mom, why? Please, can he just stay?" I was almost begging her, but she looked so serious and firm, and I knew she wasn't going to change her mind. Brett was even more shocked than me. I mean, it had been my mom who'd invited him in the first place, and now there she was, shooing him away. He quickly grabbed his stuff and ordered a taxi. I was so upset I didn't even say bye to him. I just burst into tears and felt so angry at my mom. Right after Brett left, I ran upstairs and locked myself in my room, and my mom stood on the other side begging to speak to me. She said there was something she needed to tell me. I refused to come out and instead sat on the floor on the other side of the door. I could hear my mom crying and knew this was serious. She said the reason she didn't want Brett to stay was because he was actually my half-brother. No, I didn't understand. I asked if my dad was also Brett's dad, and then I got angry. I thought my mom hadn't known who my dad was. I opened the door and I was about to start shouting at her when she told me what was really going on. I'd been adopted. Well, actually, I'd been kidnapped by my aunt when I was born. It's a long, shocking story, but basically my biological parents were this rich couple, but they were struggling to get pregnant. My biological mom had a best friend called Ashley, who she told everything to, but Ashley secretly had a crush on my dad. She seduced my dad until one night they slept together, and Ashley ended up getting pregnant. My dad was so happy and promised Ashley he'd help raise the baby, but that he couldn't divorce my mom. This made Ashley angry. She wanted my dad all to herself and wanted their kid to become the heir to his company. At the same time, my biological mom fell pregnant with me, and when my dad found out, he quickly forgot about Ashley and tried to forget about the mistake he'd made that one night. This, of course, made Ashley even more angry, but she still pretended to be friends with my mom. When my mom went into labor with me, my dad was away on a business trip, and Ashley paid someone to sneak into the hospital and kidnap me. That person turned out to be my aunt. She did it because she was desperate for cash, So she snuck in, dressed up as a nurse, and in the middle of the night stole me away. But she wasn't cold-blooded enough to just throw me away or leave me at an orphanage. So she took me to her sister's place and told her that she'd found me abandoned on the street. Her sister, who had never wanted to get married but had always wanted to be a mom, was so happy and decided to raise me. But then a few days later, it was all over the news, a missing baby. There was an exact description of what I'd been wearing, and even a photo of me just after I'd been born. There was no denying that I was the missing baby. My new mom confronted my aunt about it and found out the truth. My aunt said there was no way they could return me as my aunt had already spent all the money she'd been paid to cover some debts. And she didn't want to go to prison, so they decided to raise me as if I really was their own. That secret would still have been hidden from me if I hadn't brought Brett home. My mom was so shocked that I'd brought my dad and Ashley's son into her home and introduced him to her as my boyfriend. As my mom told me all of this, I just sat there frozen. This was absolutely unbelievable. I felt sick. They'd lied to me all these years, and even worse, my boyfriend was actually my half-brother. My whole life was one big mess. "I hate you, Mom, and I hate you too," I said to my aunt. "You helped that evil monster Ashley get what she wanted, and now you've ruined my life and taken away my family." My mom reached out to hug me, but I didn't want her near me. We both just sat there crying. She tried to calm me down and get me to relax. Then she sighed and said, "I'm sorry. I'm truly sorry. Your whole life I've been trying to make it up to you. I thought my love for you would be enough. As for Ashley, well, I heard she didn't get what she wanted in the end." "Wait, why? I don't understand." "But she successfully kidnapped me, right?" I wiped my tears and looked at her. "Yes, sweetie, but her main goal was to become your dad's wife. But that obviously didn't happen." Then she continued, "After my aunt had kidnapped me, Ashley had given birth to Brett, and was so happy thinking that my parents no longer had a baby, and that my dad would now leave my mom and go live with her. But that's not what happened. Yes, their dear daughter was taken away, but my dad still stayed with my mom and loved her even more. My dad didn't get together with Ashley, but apparently my dad had still been helping raise Brett until now. There's definitely no bad blood between them because I've heard Brett talk about his dad quite a lot. Now there was only one thing for it. I had to find my biological parents and find out the rest of the story. They deserved to know I was alive. But now, what would I do about Brett? I'd have to break up with him somehow.
Hey, I'm Ryan, and I'm here to prove why it's impossible for guys and girls to just be friends. Yeah, I know it's the 21st century and all, but I only reached this conclusion through experience. My ex Carrie was friends with this super annoying guy called Chris. They'd known each other for years, but it was obvious he liked her. I saw how gooey-eyed he was around her. She was so insistent that there was nothing going on between them, but guess what? After we broke up, it didn't take long for them to go official on social media. After that, I started dating this awesome girl called Lily. I didn't even mind the fact that there were a few guys in her group, as I eventually befriended them all too. They're all nice, and especially this one guy, Todd, seems like a cool dude. We played basketball together and chatted about video games. Lily didn't like me talking to him, though. She said she found it weird that I was so friendly with him, and she'd rather I wasn't. Whatever, I just put this down to the fact that girls could be weird sometimes. Okay, so maybe Lily didn't seem to like Todd all that much. She never sat by him or really spoke to him. It was probably just some ridiculous girl drama thing. So I continued to chat with Todd as normal. He was a genuine guy who did nice things. Such as when Lily got super drunk at some party, he was the one who called me up to come and get her. And then he stayed up with her until I arrived. I actually kind of felt sorry for Todd, as the rest of the group all had partners, so he was left being the gooseberry. Once, when me and Lily were feeding each other strawberries and being all lovey-dovey, I noticed how glum he looked. Suddenly, an idea popped into my head. I should help him find a girlfriend. So I have this one friend called Gemma. She's sweet and pretty, but she can be a little on the overbearing side. She's always sneaking candy bars in my backpack with sticky notes on them saying, "Enjoy, love, GX." And she likes every single picture I post on social media pages. I've told her I'm not interested in her like that as I'm with Lily, but she always just smiles and says, "I know that's silly." Anyway, Todd struck me as the kind of guy who may like a candy-giving, slightly clingy girl. So on a group outing to the cinema, I told him how I felt bad for him being the only single one in the group, and how I had this friend who'd be perfect for him. At first, he shook his head and said thanks but no thanks, as he wasn't looking for a girlfriend right now. I wasn't taking no for an answer. So the next week I bombarded him with messages all about how amazing Gemma was. In the end, he agreed to go on a date with her, and afterwards he messaged me, thanking me for setting it up, and telling me how he'd had a great time. Result? Just call me Dr. Love, please. Oh, you're welcome. My relationship with Lily was going great. So when she said she was going away for the night with her friends, I told her this was cool, as I trusted her and I trusted them. Then at 3 a.m., when I was shooting zombies on my game, my phone buzzed. It was Todd. "We've been playing Truth or Dare. Sorry, but I think you need to hear this." This was followed by a voice message. My heart sank, as in a tipsy voice I heard Lily say, "Before loving Ryan, I actually had feelings for another guy, and I kinda still do now, The recording ended there. Not that it mattered, as I'd heard enough. My girlfriend liked someone else. Then Todd messaged me. "Sorry for that, bro. Thought you deserved the heads up." I thanked him for his honesty. I knew it must have been hard for him to call out Lily. As I saw it, he was a really good guy with the right intentions. For obvious reasons that night, I couldn't sleep at all. So the next morning, I got up early and went for a jog to try and clear my mind fog. That's when Gemma rang me up and asked me out on a picnic. I agreed. I figured that it'd beat moping around all miserable. By the time I arrived back from my jog, Gemma was already parked outside of my dorm, a smile on her face and a picnic basket in hand. I commented on how quick she'd packed it, and she blushed and mentioned something about female intuition. I stank, so I went and showered quickly. Then, as I was getting into Gemma's car, Lily messaged me, telling me she'd be back by noon and I should come over for lunch. But I'm not in any mood to deal with her just yet. So I messaged her saying I was busy with an assignment. The picnic was great. It was such a sunny day, and Gemma filled the basket with all of my favorite treats. I arrived back feeling positive about things. So what if Lily had a crush on another guy? It didn't mean she didn't love me, right? So I went over to Lily's place, but when she opened the door, she just scowled at me and said, "Oh, it's you." Of course it was me. Who else would it be? I followed her inside, but her mood only worsened. I tried asking her about her trip, but she answered with shrugs and eye rolls. Feeling annoyed, I asked her what her problem was. Then she just went into full rage mode and shouted at me. "What's my problem? Why don't we talk about you? Where have you been today? Don't think you can lie to me." Then she showed me on her phone, and on the screen was one of Gemma's posts about how she'd had a lovely picnic with me. "We're just friends, Lily, you know that. You spent all night with your guy friends, and I didn't moan about it." "Well, I know she likes you, and now you're just hanging out with her behind my back." Fueled by anger, I yelled at her. "So what? You're not really innocent either. I know you prefer some other guy over me." "Well, then I suggest you go and date him instead." "What? Whatever. You know what? Fine. Maybe I will." "Yeah, well, I think you should." I stormed out of there and charged up the street. By the time I arrived back at my dorm, the reality dawned on me that I'd just broken up with the love of my life. Jeez, this sucked. From then on, whenever I saw Lily around campus, she totally ignored me. It was the worst feeling ever. Todd messaged me a lot to check if I was okay. I kind of hoped he could help me get back with Lily, but I was getting some seriously weird vibes from him. Once he even sent a message saying, "You're an amazing guy, and you're way too good for Lily anyway." Okay, weird. Did he have a crush on me? That would explain why Lily was wary of me making friends with him. Worse still, I had Gemma hanging around me like some sort of limpet. Because I was lonely, I agreed to go for a coffee with her. She left her phone on the table when she went to the toilet. It beeped, so I looked at it. And that's when I saw that Todd had a picture of him holding Lily in her arms with the caption, "Hey, look, I've succeeded. You two quickly finish your quest, although maybe we should pass on the double date." As Gemma walked back over, I waved the picture in front of her and said, "I think you have some explaining to do." The color drained from her face, but she gave me a feeble nod. It turns out that on her date with Todd, they discussed how she was crazy about me and how he was into Lily. Then Todd had shown Gemma the messages I'd sent him, telling him how great she was and why I thought he should date her. So he made out I must secretly like her and suggested they come up with a plan to split us up. There I was, thinking Todd was my friend, but turns out the whole time he was an evil genius. Crying, Gemma played me the full voice message that Todd had sent her from that night. Before loving Ryan, I actually had feelings for another guy. And I still kinda do now, but it doesn't matter, as I've decided that Ryan's the guy for me. Besides, some of you have probably noticed that the other guy, well, it's Todd. We're just friends though, so let's leave it be. I told Gemma to stay away from me. Then I stormed out of there. She shouted after me, but I ignored her, and I've been ignoring her ever since. So there we go. In the end, opposite-sex friendships never bring any good. I wanted to believe that guys and girls could just be friends, but clearly they can't. I've given this a lot of thought, and decided to tell Lily everything, as she deserves to know what a cruel and conniving guy Todd is. I don't know how she'll react, but I know I have to let her know, right? I hope she gives me another chance, but it might be too late. Todd tore us apart with his mind games, and I stood by and let him. Geez, I miss her. Wish me luck.
Hey guys, Private Davis here. Yep, Taylor Davis, the girl who secretly disguised herself as her twin brother to attend an all-boy military school. In the last part, I had to deal with my fair share of challenges, but having Tom and Henry, my two best pals by my side, made things way easier. But still, there were problems my two comrades couldn't help me with, such as this situation right now involving Ellis, finding out about my real identity. Not that I'm interested in your mess, but I need to find my brother Jacob. So let's make a deal. I'll keep your secret if you help me find him. What? How am I meant to find a guy I don't even know? To my surprise, Ellis then truthfully told me his story. Turns out, he came to this school for two reasons: to punish those who picked on Jacob and to find clues about his disappearance. Meanwhile, I coincidentally met this Jacob guy outside of school and found his dog tag, so I was the only lead he had for now. But could I really trust this guy? I mean, just look at what he did to Eric. If you don't want to do it, then I can go to the principal's office. Okay, so what? I found the dog tag while we snuck out to a local girls' school. That's all I know. If you spill my secret, I won't let you find your brother in peace either. So you better know a way to take me to that school. I'll pick the time to make a move, and you just try your best not to get caught. The next morning, I was walking to class as usual when I passed a bunch of guys huddled together, whispering something about me? Huh? Wait, did Ellis reveal my identity to everyone? Such a fraud! I ran to find him, but accidentally crashed into this boy called Finley. I helped him up as the whispers around us got even louder. Guess you're one of the alleged suspects too. Finley then told me that yesterday, someone discovered a box that looked just like a pack of candy in the bathroom, but inside were a bunch of tampons. So now the students thought there was either a pervert on campus or that one of us was secretly a girl. And according to them, anyone who never joined the public shower was suspicious. Oh no, what if they found out the tampons were mine? Guys, hot girl alert! Everyone immediately forgot about me and flocked to him. The buzz on campus was that an inspection officer was staying here for a few months, and he'd brought his beautiful daughter Ivy along with him. People said she looks like a fairy with this ethereal vibe. Just then the inspector, Ivy, and his group stepped into the hallway. I watched them all drool over her. Poof, please. Anyone would think they'd never seen a girl before. She walked past these silly boys with a smug smile, but as soon as she caught sight of me standing there unfazed, she froze to the spot and stared straight at me. What? Was I supposed to show off my smitten face too? Dad, I need someone to show me around school. Can I take him? What? Why me? I couldn't even say anything as the principal had already agreed. Come on, let's go. Oh, you're so muscular. Ew, gross! Later on, she shooed Henry and Tom out of the entertainment room just because she wanted to spend time alone with me. Another time, when we were about to do our cleaning duty, Ivy popped out of nowhere and asked me to go hang with her. She even stopped two guys passing by and did her whole fluttering eyelashes routine to persuade them to do my cleaning duties instead. Ivy, I appreciate your help, but we all have our chores to do. This isn't fair on the others. Don't you get it, Jack? I did all this because I want to be close to you. I like you. I think you'll be better suited to someone else. Then I ran out of there, leaving everyone behind stunned at my harsh rejection. For the next couple of days, Ivy was furious and looked at me like she wanted to tear me to pieces. And the whispers started circulating again. They said that refusing a girl as beautiful as Ivy meant that I must have not had any interest in girls. Or even worse, I probably was a girl myself, and I was the one who dropped the tampons in the bathroom. Gosh, this was bad. That night, as usual, I just stepped out of the communal bathroom after a late-night shower when someone suddenly dragged me into the equipment room. It was Ellis. What's going on? Just then, footsteps resounded from the hall. I held my breath as I anxiously waited for them to pass by. Phew, that was close. Turns out, that afternoon, Ellis heard the officers discussing security tightening, especially in the student communal bathroom area at night. So he waited for me outside and hid me just in time. He saved me. We tried to sneak through the new building close to our dorm, but unfortunately bumped into Ivy. What are you doing here? Trying to sneak out, huh? Officer! It's not what you think. Jack came here to confess his feelings to you, right? Jack? Oh, yes. I think I'm fond of you. Oh, yeah? Then why did you refuse me the other day? He was just too insecure. I mean, you're quite the catch with your high-up dad while he's just a private. But he can't ignore his feelings for you any longer, so... Ugh, cringe. But it worked, as Ivy looked so moved and lunged forward to hug me. Then I guess we officially became a couple? And as Ellis planned, the rumors about me being a girl were replaced with jealous gazes. Now Ivy followed me to every class, every break time. I barely had any time alone. This tactical combat course was my only chance to get away from her. We had to go to this warehouse to practice saving a mannequin captive. I was focusing on the mission, but still got caught by an enemy. Wait, it was Ellis? He seemed agitated and told me we needed to leave this Friday afternoon. As we were discussing how to sneak out of school, why do you need to meet up? We almost jumped out of our skin. Ivy! Why are you sneaking up on us? What did you hear? Just you asking my boyfriend out? Oh, I see what's going on here. You like Jack, don't you? Weirdly, Ellis seemed flustered. He was sweating and mumbling out nonsense. Was he that scared of Ivy? Suddenly, Ivy grabbed my collar, trying to kiss me? Panicked, I shoved her duck face away. Just in time, the siren went off, signaling the course was over, so I ran out of there. To avoid Ivy, the plan changed to early Friday morning. I had to fake an injury to get out of class. Ellis and I met up at the back door, jumped into the milk delivery truck, and let it take us to the local girls' school. When we arrived, I led him to the school entrance where I'd found Jacob's dog tag. We spoke to some students, but no one knew who Jacob was, and people started to stare at us as if we were creeps. We were about to give up when this woman approached us. Why are you looking for Jacob? You look exactly like him. Turned out she's Mrs. Walker, a teacher here, and she knows Jacob. Her husband found him dazed and injured at the edge of the woods and took him in. His health got better with time, but his happiness didn't. So when prom came, Mrs. Walker told Jacob to go and enjoy the night, hoping he'd feel better. But he returned early and was only invested in this dog tag he'd picked up from someone named Jack Davis, since that was also the name of Jacob's favorite drag queen who performed at big theaters. This incident then gave Jacob a push to take action. He always wanted to live with his true self, but he'd been lost along the way. So he decided to venture to find Jack Davis, the role model that might be the only one who could help him now. He had parted ways with the Walkers to go on this self-discovery journey not long ago. On the way back, Ellis and I stayed quiet. I didn't expect Jacob to know my twin brother. Should I tell Ellis that I might know where Jacob went? But I couldn't just lead him to my home to find his brother as my parents didn't know I'd disguised as Jack and joined this all-boy military school. If they ever found out about this, I could kiss my soldier dreams goodbye. When the truck stopped, I got off and was about to go back to the dorm when Ellis pulled my hand.
You know that Jack, right? Is he your twin brother? If it's true, then please tell me where he is.
I'm sorry, but I can't. I've got homework to do. Then I left as he called after me. The next day, I tried to avoid Ellis, but he was ahead of me. He was desperate, but I just shook my head.
You selfish fraud!
Right away, Tom ran to stand between me and Ellis while Henry defended me.
What, you want to become the next Eric? Get lost, you jerk!
Oh no. I tried explaining to them that Ellis didn't mean any harm, but they didn't listen and just pulled me away from him. I felt so bad. For that whole day, I kept thinking about what had happened. Ellis was right. I was selfish. He might never see his brother again because of me. I had to go help him. But when I got to his room, his roommate said he'd already taken his annual leave to go find his brother. Oh no. He must have figured out my home address somehow. I gotta go home, but how to get out of school? It wasn't milk delivery day. As I was thinking, Tom and Henry approached me, asking why I was acting so weird. This was it. I guess I shouldn't lie to them any longer.
Guys, I have something to tell you.
I'm actually a girl. Then I told them why I came here in the first place, how things got entangled with Ellis, and now he went looking for my house as his brother might be there. I waited for them to be mad, but instead, they smiled gently at me. That's a pretty big secret to carry. Girl or boy, this changes nothing. You're still our friend. They were not angry with me. I felt so relieved knowing that I didn't have to hide anything from them anymore. Now I just needed to figure out a way to go home.
We can handle this. Go wait near the back gate.
And I did. Just in time, the fire alarm went off, and all officers guarding the gate ran to that direction. A few seconds later, the back gate suddenly opened and the CCTV went off, and I just slid through easily. Luckily, I arrived home before Ellis did. My heart was pounding when I knocked on the door. Then Mom and Dad opened it. Needless to say, seeing their daughter dressed as a boy soldier was a huge shock. I quickly explained to them how I'd secretly taken Jack's place, and their faces kept turning darker and darker.
How could you lie to us, then illegally enter an all-boys military school? What were you thinking?
Right then, Jack, my twin, rushed down the stairs. He immediately got what was going on and backed me up.
Mom, Dad, this has been Taylor's dream ever since she was little. This is dangerous. If you get caught, you could be sent to a juvenile center. Pack your bags and quit the school right now.
In that heated moment, Ellis barged in.
Jacob? Jacob! Are you here? Where did you hide him?
I tried to calm him, but it was no use. The whole scene was chaotic. Then suddenly, he stopped dead, staring at the stairs. Huh? Someone else was here. Someone with silky, long hair, a beautifully made-up face, in a super pretty dress. It was Jacob. He apologized to my parents for his brother's behavior. Then we all sat down as he told us how he realized from a young age that he was interested in feminine things. So he used to sneak into his mom's closet and use her clothes and makeup. One time, his parents caught him and they were so worried about his deviant behavior, they forced him to attend military school, hoping to straighten him up. But of course, he didn't fit in there and was fed up with being teased by Eric. So when he saw a chance to run away, he did so without hesitation, cutting off all ties with the school and his family. Luckily, the walkers found him in the woods and took great care of him. Still, it wasn't enough. He needed to discover his true self, so we came to Jack's.
I beg of you, don't make me go back home again. I can't stand the disappointed look on Mom and Dad's faces. I just want to be myself. I know it must be hard, but you gotta go home and face your parents. Once they know how you truly feel, they'll understand.
Mom, Dad, I'm sorry for being so reckless, but being a soldier is my dream. Please give me a chance.
I can't let you do it. But you can have till the end of the semester to pack your stuff and say your goodbyes. That's it.
Just then, I heard footsteps outside. It was Ivy. What was she doing here? You tricked me. I already knew there was something weird going on with you and Ellis. But you're a girl? Lucky me, I had your whole secret recorded here. Let's see how my dad punishes you, fraud! This is bad. Ellis and I jumped into his car and drove back to the school immediately, but we arrived back to an unexpected situation. The principal, aka Eric's dad, was already packing his things, and a strange lady with a stern look was sitting at his desk. Wait, did this mean we had a new principal? Yep. Turns out the inspection officer came to school to investigate our principal on allegations that he'd been condoning his son's mistreatment of other students. And it was none other than Ellis here who had been gathering up evidence to help him. Then what about me? Well, in return for Ellis's assistance, the officer decided to let me stay and study here. In fact, the new principal even had some other plans. Finally, it's the end of the semester. Whew! And you know what? Our school now officially welcomes female students, which means I'm legitimately the first girl in school. I'm so grateful for our new principal. Meanwhile, me, Henry, and Tom are still the best of comrades. Obviously, nothing could ever stand between us. And of course, my parents are okay with me staying since I don't have to hide my real identity anymore. About Jacob, he actually listened to Jack's advice and went home to talk to his parents. They were shocked to see him like that, but as he poured his heart out to them, they decided to slowly accept the real him. As for his brother, Ellis, we went through a lot together, and now we're best friends. There might be some sparks between us, though, but I don't know. Let's just wait and...
It's finally the first day at the aquarium. And to say I'm nervous is an understatement. Stay calm. You can do this. You're Ariel, not Naira. I'm headstrong, spirited, and... Okay, let's get into character. Bright smile? Check. Friendly manner? Check. Ariel's accent? Check. I was a dazzling mermaid and even let the little kids stick their stickers on my fishtail while I answered a bazillion questions about Atlantica and my Prince Eric. The last visitor was the sweetest little girl who handed me a collectible box of cutlery as a gift. Oh my, such a lovely comb, but it looks rare. Are you sure your guardians would agree to this? Of course. My brother always says yes to me. The little girl signaled someone in the crowd to come over, and it was Arson? As in the cutest boy from school?
Naira? Oh my god, your take on Ariel is spot on. I didn't know there was a side of you.
What are you talking about? I know not of this, Naira. Feeling the panic rise in me, I lifted my fishtail costume and ran with my 2 feet as all the kids stared in shock. I'd never wanted to disappoint those kids, but I had the biggest crush on Arson, and no way had I expected him to be there and see me like this. At school, I was a loser, a nobody. Yet, when I was acting, I felt invincible. At least, I did until my timid, introverted side got in the way of my performing dreams. That day, our drama club mentor announced our school play this year would be Legally Blonde. I loved that movie so much, and I already knew all the lines. I couldn't let this opportunity pass me by, so when the mentor asked who wanted to audition as the lead, Elle Woods, I took all the courage and raised my hand. The whole room fell silent, and suddenly burst into laughter. Oh please, how could a loser like you play the glamorous Elle Woods? Worst of all, the mentor agreed with her and said that I might be better suited for the nail lady role. And then she said the lead should go to someone who's outgoing and influential, like Eliza. What? Eliza's got the emotional range of a teaspoon. I've gotta get this role. So I waited until the end of the meeting and then spoke to the mentor in private.
I'm sorry, but I can't cast an Elle Woods with stage fright. Naira, I'll consider giving you the role, but only if you can prove to me that you can do this without your fear getting the better of you. So, try practicing by going out in public and interacting with strangers. Get yourself comfortable in front of a crowd. Can you do that?
Feeling determined, I went to look for some kind of social experiment right away. And that's why I applied for this job at the aquarium. But I never thought anyone from class would show up, least of all, Arson. He even caught up with me at school the next day, insisting he saw me at the aquarium. And typical me, being all fidgety and shy, I blurted out, maybe you mistook me for my twin sister, Cora.
Oh? In that case then, can I get her number? Or can you, arrange for me to go on a date with her? The way she glowed with confidence was amazing.
Wow, I didn't expect him to be that into my acting. How ironic. Wait, what if I continue to play Cora and go on a date with him? I could practice my acting as this unapologetically outgoing girl while spending time with him? Tempting, right? Okay, wait at the book cafe near school on Sunday, 3 p.m. I'll tell Cora about it. I'd been preparing for this date the whole week. After watching multiple tutorials on YouTube, I was finally able to put together this bold look. All that's left to do was to wear Cora's self-confidence to match it. So I did a Bella Hadid runway strut into the cafe, straight past the gawping onlookers and over to Arsen's seat, and interrupted him from his reading. Hi, is that a Rick Riordan's book?
Yeah, Heroes of Olympus. Are you a fan of Riordan too?
Are you kidding me? I've read all of his works. Yes, Breaking the Ice, success. We connected over our shared love of fantasy novels and other nerdy things. I didn't want the date to ever end, so I invited him along to a secret place of mine. I covered his eyes until we got there. Being the cute guy he was, he went along with it, even though he looked unsure about what was happening. When I turned the lights on and the ice rink appeared, his face lit up. Then the snow began to fall. It felt like a scene out of Frozen. Then we went onto the ice and Arsen fell straight onto his butt.
Stop laughing. This is my first time, okay?
Aw, embarrassed Arsen was so cute. I helped him up, and it was the first time our hands touched. I led him around the rink and taught him some moves. When I looked at him, I saw him looking back at me with this big grin on his face. Then suddenly he pulled me in, and I fell right into his embrace. Our faces were so close, and I swore we were about to kiss. Ugh! Overcome with nerves, I pushed him away, and he lost his balance and fell flat on the ice. But he jumped up to his feet right away and skated after me.
Oh, don't let me catch you, or else.
Let's see you try. Yesterday felt like a dream. We texted each other nonstop up until the last class of the day, PE. My eyes were still glued to my phone when a flying ball hit my knee. It was from Eliza. Right after that, another one came and knocked my glasses off. I shielded myself with my arms and hoped it would go away soon, and surprisingly, it did. Only, Arsen was standing in front of me, blocking all the balls. Arsen, what are you doing there? We were just playing around.
Playing around? Can't you see you're hurting her?
Then Arsen turned to me and asked me if I was okay. Could this be it? Did he realize I was the girl he went on a date with? Thank you for helping me out.
You're my friend, and also Cora's sister, so I've got to look out for you, right?
Oh, he didn't recognize me. That meant my acting was flawless, right? Then why did I feel so uneasy about it? As uncomfortable as I felt about the situation, I also liked Arsen way too much to stop it. So I continued pretending to be Cora. He acted so lovey-dovey on our dates, and it made my heart melt. But at school, he only saw me as Cora's helpless, clumsy sister. He talked about her constantly and stared blankly into space as if there were an imaginary Cora there. It started bugging me that Arsen only liked the confident, fun, and spontaneous heroine I'd created, not coy Naira. I couldn't blame him though, if I didn't find myself lovable. Maybe that's why Mom left me and didn't bother to write or to call. I couldn't do this anymore. I couldn't feed Arsen with false expectations of an unreal character, so I typed out a text to Arsen telling him that Cora was on her way to study abroad for 3 years and that this relationship wouldn't work. Arsen kept texting back, non-stop, and even came to my house to look for Cora and broke down in tears when I told him she'd already left. I felt so bad, but that was the only way for him to stop fantasizing about Cora. Over time, his pain would fade, right? From that day on, Arsen always looked for me at school and consistently asked about her. This didn't go unnoticed by Eliza, who was clearly green with envy. Lunchtime came, and Eliza, along with her minions, suddenly approached me. Why so lonely? Has Arsen abandoned you? I tried to ignore her and eat my lunch, but she wouldn't leave me alone. Fine then, I'll lend you a hand. Arsen, hi! Did you know that Naira here is so obsessed with you? She even admits that she loves to follow you everywhere like a stalker. How creepy. Huh? What was this girl saying? Now people were staring at me, judging me for something that wasn't even true. I was done with being Naira, the loser. If only Cora's personality helped me stand up for myself. Shut up! Me and Arsen are friends, so what? Why do you have to make stuff up about me? Is it 'cause you're jealous of me? What? Me? Jealous of you? You like Arson, don't you? I feel sorry for you, really. You're gonna pick on everyone he talks to? How pathetic. Just like that, people made disapproving comments at Eliza. She couldn't do anything other than run away in shame. While I suddenly received praise for standing up against the school's tyrant, people seemed to love this new side of me, so perhaps it was a good time to give myself a makeover. The next day at school, I started dressing up boldly and wearing contact lenses instead of nerdy glasses. My classmates seemed to like my new look. My drama club mentor changed her attitude towards me as well. I even applied for the student council and my popularity grew, and so did my friendship circle. The world opened up to me, but weirdly, being around people all the time just felt uncomfortable and exhausting. I couldn't really talk to any of them, as we weren't even close. I just felt so left out. When it came to a charity date auction, being on the council committee meant that I was appointed a bachelorette. That meant everyone joining this event would bid to take me on a date, and that bidding money would go to the school's fund to build a new cafeteria. That's how I ended up here, on stage at the auction. I tried my best to act cool, to raise as much money as possible. The boys kept cheering for me, trying to show their charms, and I tried to flirt back by talking nonsense and winking at them. Once the bidding started, chaos commenced as people kept raising their paddle numbers. 40. 60. 80. It suddenly came to me that I didn't want to go on dates with any of these guys. I didn't know them at all. And just then, Arson shouted from the back. 500. 500 going once, going twice, and sold. Arson jumped on stage, grabbed my hand, and dragged me out of there. He led me to the garden, and then he started asking me tons of questions. What is it with you lately? It's as if you're someone else. No way. I'm just the same old Naira. Tell me the truth. Are you... Cora? You switched places with your sister to protect her, right? Oh, Cora, I've missed you so much. After all this time, he was still in love with Cora? Even now when I changed myself, he still didn't see me as Naira? Arson, I can't. And then I just ran out of there. After a night of crying myself to sleep, I was back at school and found myself summoned to the principal's office with a smirking Eliza. There she showed the principal a video recording of my conversation with Arson last night, which was proof that someone else had been replacing me at school. If this was true, I could be expelled. Oh no! Panic! I blurted out a lie that I had bipolar and that sometimes I switched to the other persona and acted up. The principal seemed confused, but then she insisted I go to the school therapist. I had no choice but to agree. And it was actually really good for me. Through talking to the therapist, I could finally open up about my past. Ever since I was a kid, I've always been super shy. I thought it was why my mom left me behind when she split from Dad and moved out. She hadn't even contacted me once. I know a childish nerd like me would never be the one who she could really talk to. Thank God my dad came to pick me up after that. The thought of facing my so-called friends on the bus was making me nauseous.
Were you that unhappy not having your mother around?
I just don't know why she left me behind without a word. Was I a loser in her eyes?
Honey, listen. Mom loves you. And the reason you didn't receive any letters from her was because I hid them all from you.
What? Why would you do that?
Because I was so broken after your mom left that I thought it would be better if you and I could forget everything about her. I'm sorry.
Don't you know how terrible I felt about myself all those years just because of your selfishness? I ran into the house immediately. I couldn't look at him right now, only to see Mom and Cora were sitting in the living room. Both rushed towards me and pulled me in for a hug. Yeah, the Cora character wasn't entirely made up. Instead, I based her on my real-life twin sister. The little 5-year-old me always struck by Cora's side, hid behind her dress while she boldly stood up against anyone who dared to pick on me. I'd always looked up to her. Turned out, when Dad got the call from school, he realized his actions had caused me pain, so he did everything in his power to contact Mom and brought her and Cora from LA to here. Mom kept apologizing to me, saying she regretted every minute of leaving me behind. Seeing them all break down in tears like that ached my heart, but it gave me this warm feeling at the same time. After all this time, my family feud was finally resolved. Just at that moment, the doorbell rang. It's Arson.
Naira, is that your boyfriend?
What? I dragged him away immediately, and this time I admitted the whole truth to him. I told him how I lied that the girl in the aquarium was Cora, because I didn't think he'd like the real me, as I wasn't a confident presence. But my feelings for him were real, and that's why I tried so hard to get close to him, but I figured now that he knew the truth it'd be over, so I'd just walk away. Finally, I'm back. I've been in LA for an entire winter break to spend more time with Mom and Cora, and to figure myself out. I've realized that being an introvert is nothing to be self-conscious about. I'm observant, and that'll help a lot of my acting passion, right? This semester, I'll definitely try to impress my drama club mentor. No boys will ever distract me again. And that's when I spotted Arson waving at me with a huge bouquet in his hand. Arson, what are you doing here? I thought you were still mad at me.
Well, I thought about it a lot, and honestly, things between us got messy, so I'd like to get to know you again. Only this time, please can it be the real you, as I really want to know what Naira's about. What do you say?
Yeah, I'd love that.
Here I am at a press conference, standing in front of countless reporters. Oh, no, that's not me. There you go. I'm Alexia, 17 years old. I may look like a high schooler, but unlike kids my age, I'm a bodyguard. How so? Well, I was adopted by an underground security organization after being abandoned at a young age. Thankfully, Papa, my savior, was around to teach me everything from math to martial arts. Honestly, it was the happiest time of my life, but he'd gone too soon due to cancer, and it's like I was abandoned again. Didn't leave me any time to grieve. The organization put me on training from dusk till dawn, saying I needed to make my Papa proud. So I always tried my best and stayed on top at martial arts. However, due to my clumsiness, I ended up as just a bodyguard for VIPs with a codename 036. How boring. Until one day, I was summoned by the boss. 036, we have a special task for you. His name is David Smith, principal of Woodford High School. Another doll escort, again. You will investigate Mr. Smith for a financial regulation violation by disguising as a new student at Woodford and collect everything related to him, his wife, and daughter. So be extremely careful. Is that clear? Yes, sir. Finally! Goodbye, boring bodyguard job! Time to prove myself. I'll make Papa proud, and to be honest, I'm also excited to experience the life of a high schooler. Now, I needed to do some shopping. Since I only have suits to wear on duty, I didn't know how to dress like a real student. Oh wow, look at all these dazzling clothes! After a lot of contemplating, I decided to take this pretty dress. This thing, and also these. They're matching, right? But the saleswoman asked me if they were for my little sister. Huh? What does she mean? Then she picked out something else for me. I was about to try it on when a scream startled me. Help! Thief! Help! Not a single day went by without trouble. I bolted in that direction and, aha! Not today, thief! Are you crazy? I'm not the thief. Let me go. Just then, I heard a thud and saw another man in blue being tackled to the ground by 2 security guards, while a woman snatched the bag out of his hands. Oops, I just caught the wrong guy. I immediately released him. Turned out he was chasing the thief too, but no matter how much I apologized, he kept rambling that I was a violent lunatic, and even suspected me of being an accomplice. This guy was unbelievable. He better wish he'd never see me again, else the next kick won't be a mistake. Today is my first day at school. My disguise was so good, even I couldn't recognize myself. There's no way I'd get caught. From now on, I'll go by the name Alexia. Much better than 036, isn't it? Wait, I know her. Bella Smith, one of my objects. Wow, the audacity of those girls to pick on their own principal's daughter. Alright, Alexia's coming to your rescue. But not in my normal way. So, here comes a clumsy nerd who accidentally bumped into them, spilling coffee over them, buying time for the prey to run away. The mean girls let out horrified yelps, then yelled at me before running to the restroom. Then I turned to see Bella talking to a boy. Oh no, it wasn't just any boy. It was that obnoxious jerk from the mall. What are the odds? Then they headed toward me. While Bella kept thanking me, I caught a staring look from this guy. You seem familiar. Have we met before? No way. How's that possible? It's my first day here. Phew, he seemed not to recognize me. So, he's Clark, Bella's best friend. Now, how am I supposed to approach her when her company was this guy? Anyways, my first class is about to start. Now, excuse me. I have this perfect cover of a schoolgirl that I need to keep up. Newbie, tell me, where was the American Declaration of Independence signed? At the bottom of the paper, madam? The whole class burst into laughter. How embarrassing! But how was I supposed to know? Papa didn't teach me this. Then suddenly, I heard this alarming sound. Don't panic. I'll handle this. Follow me to the hallway. But no one did. Instead, they laughed even louder. I was still dumbfounded when a nice girl told me it's just an end-of-class bell. Oh, that's what it was. Finally, a break from all those exhausting lessons. Now let's check if the food is safe. Okay, pass. I was about to eat the carrot. Then the mean girls from earlier appeared. Yes, eat it. That'll help your poor eyesight. And this is for staining my dress. Then they strutted off. Ugh. In other places, those folks would have known the taste of my fist. Hey, Alexia. Alexia. So noisy. This place is like a beehive. Alexia. Oh wait, that's my new name. I turned around to see Bella. She wanted to join me for lunch. Here comes the chance. But nope. The tag-along Clark is also here. Jeez. I asked Bella why those mean girls teased her, the principal's daughter, but she just shook her head unknowingly. But I think I've kind of figured out the reason after talking with her. I noticed that she was a bit slower than her peers, as when I cracked a joke, it took her a while to understand and laugh along. So, prying out information from her should be easy. If only... You've just moved here. How do you know she's the principal's daughter? I heard from others. This party pooper. Jeez. The first week didn't go too well, as I was still getting used to being called Alexia and not inspecting my own locker. Also, this load of homework? In general, I enjoy learning stuff at school, but the mission hasn't progressed one bit. I had to pick up the pace, so using the voice changer, I tricked Mr. Smith to leave his office, then sneaked in there. But suddenly, Bella came in. Panicking, I blurted out I was cleaning the desk for the principal. She seemed convinced and even joined me. Another time, I saw the principal talking to someone in the hallway, and was about to take pictures with my spy camera pen when Clark appeared and bombarded me with stupid questions. Jesus Christ, if things carried on like this, when on earth would I finish my mission? One day, I spotted Bella in trouble with the mean girls again. Ugh, do these brats ever learn? This is too much. I need to settle this once and for all. So I ran over and quickly pulled Bella away, telling her to run. Then, I threw my famous flying kicks, along with some front sweeps, and got all the meanies knocked on the ground in a blink. Justice served. I dusted my hands together in triumph, but has Clark just witnessed everything? This guy was way too suspicious. He probably would ruin my secret mission someday. I need to look into this guy. And it didn't take long for me to find out he wasn't from a wealthy family like most of the other students. He got into this prestigious school on a scholarship for being brainy. Now here I was in Clark's family's bakery. Oh, this girl has his eyes and hair color. We talked and immediately clicked. She was Enola, Clark's sister. She has Down syndrome, but she's a real talent. Look, aren't her designs stunning? I was flipping through Enola's sketchbook when Clark suddenly showed up and dragged me outside. Why did you follow me here? I know you're up to something. Who is the suspicious one here? It's you who always coincidentally appears wherever I am. I only followed you here because you've been stalking me and looking shady. That got Clark speechless. Then his sister came to us saying, Alexia, Enola really likes playing with you. Brother, let her come inside. His attitude completely changed hearing that. He gently told me that other people often tease Enola because of her condition. He also apologized for misunderstanding me and offered me a free cinnamon swirl. Wasn't this the first time I'd seen him smile? I'd never been so close to him like this. And suddenly, I felt something churning in my stomach. Perhaps I'd eaten too much. After that, our conflict was naturally settled. Me and Clark became closer, and I got to know other aspects of him. He was really gentle and helpful. The more we talked, the more flutters I felt. Oh no, what's wrong with me? Worse still, I even started to feel uncomfortable when Bella was close to Clark. He always helps her with the smallest things, like opening the door, holding an umbrella for her, and even opening water bottles. She always overacted as if she wanted Clark to protect her all the time. No, get yourself together, Alexia. No, 036, you have a mission to do. So I faked having period cramps to get out of PE and sneak into Mr. Smith's office again. I rummaged through the trash can, but there's nothing useful. Then I noticed a locked drawer. And guess what? There was a notepad and an envelope full of money. Then by shading the paper with a pencil, the letters gradually appeared. It's an address and a time. So the principal's going to make a transaction there? Got it. Then on the way out, I clumsily knocked over a pile of documents on his desk. Wait, there was a picture of a woman holding 2 babies with scribbles. I'll love you 3 forever. But Bella told me she was an only child. Then who's this? And here's that place. The middle of nowhere. Exactly where something fishy would happen. 4:29. It's almost time. Someone's coming. Wait, it's the woman in that picture. She's older, but it's definitely her. And then Principal Smith appeared. They seemed really close. They'd been talking and he handed her an envelope. That envelope. So she was his. What now? Haven't given up on stalking others? Okay, listen carefully. I think Principal Smith is involved in a financial violation case. But not just that. I just got him 2-timing. See? No way. That's my... Okay, I will keep this secret for you on one condition. Let me join this investigation. The principal has been supportive of my scholarship. I don't think he's that type of person. What? He wanted to work with me? That sounded risky, but as long as I kept my mouth shut about the organization, I could spend some Bella-free time with him. Good, right? A few days later, Clark told me to meet him at a cafe to discuss the investigation. But it's been ages and he still hasn't shown up. Then out of nowhere, a beautiful cake was presented in front of my eyes. Oh my, it's Clark, singing happy birthday and even gave me a present. Birthday? I myself didn't know when my birthday was. Why, And the cake, did he make it himself for me? Aw, he's so sweet. I got so emotional that I almost blurted out my feelings to him. But right at that moment, Bella, out of the blue, jumped in between us. Typical Bella, never leave us alone. Turns out, she was actually the one to insist her dad let her see my student records and make my first birthday cake ever. Thank you guys. I've never had a birthday before, because I have because my parents are always away. Then we should celebrate properly, at your house. How about that? What? Why did he suggest that? But then Clark winked at me. Seems like we had a plan. Arriving at her home, we were warmly greeted by Bella's parents. It was such a delicious home-cooked meal. So this was what it was like to have a family. Bella had this all the time? But poor her, she didn't know about her father's a cheater. We were in the middle of dinner when Clark asked Mr. Smith about a science project he was doing. Then Clark winked at me again. That's my cue. So I excused myself to use the restroom, then sneaked into Mr. Smith's office. This pen was magical. Let's see what Bella's dear father was hiding. Oh, he withdrew the same amount of money each month. Yay! Today was a success! Thanks to Clark's clever plan, I'd finally got something useful. Suddenly, our eyes met and he looked at me gently while leaning closer. I was ready for a kiss when my boss called me. I did not assign this mission for you to play house with that criminal. You have 3 days, or else I'll have someone more capable taking care of this. Such a waste of your papa's expectation. Am I really that useless? Thinking I'd let Papa down, I couldn't help but burst into tears. What happened? Who's that? Tell me. I'll handle him. Clark, it may sound weird, but I'm actually a spy. What? Clark was shocked, obviously, so we sat down on a bench and I blurted out everything to him. Clark didn't say a word and just gently held me in his arms, which made me feel so relieved. You may wonder why Bella and I were in this deserted place. The thing is, a few days after that call, my boss ordered me to bring Bella here to kidnap her, and use the documents I gathered to blackmail the principal into resigning. I guess that could help me get rid of the third wheel Bella and have Clark all to myself, right? Oh, isn't that our school's vice president? So he was behind everything after all. Then suddenly, freeze! Hands in the air! Oh my god, the police? Why were they here? Along with Mr. Smith and Clark? We're so doomed! Except, it was my master plan. After receiving the text from my boss, I almost followed his order. But then, I remembered Papa's words. He always told me to never lose my moral compass, and never harm others to achieve personal goals. Bella was a good person and shouldn't be punished for whatever her father did. I couldn't betray my first friend like that. So I told Clark and we set up a plan to find out who was behind all this. And here we are. The vice principal was revealed to have hired my organization to spy on the principal to overthrow him. And when he couldn't find any dirt on Mr. Smith, he turned to use Bella as a leverage against her father. How despicable. Also, I can't believe that the new boss led our organization down an evil path like that. But it's not the only truth revealed. But Principal Smith, how do you explain your monthly money withdrawal? I had a close friend who unfortunately passed away at a young age. He asked me to send his money to his illegitimate son and daughter, whom he'd kept a secret due to family pressure. So there's nothing more going on between you and my mom, right? Huh? What did his mother have to do with this? Turns out the woman he met up with the other day was Clark's mom. That means Clark and Enola were the kids in the picture? What a twist! In that case, thank you for taking care of my family all this time. How foolish of me to suspect you and Mom, and even investigate you. My apologies. You investigated him before? Yes. Actually, it's not a coincidence that I caught you spying on him. Sorry for keeping secrets, but I knew with your impulsive nature, you'd jump to conclusions and approach my mom. Huh? Impulsive? That's how he saw me? Then he knew me pretty well. Why is everything so confusing? Can you explain it to me? Did you befriend me just to investigate my dad? Bella, I'm so sorry for how things went down, but please believe me, our friendship is real. Fortunately, Bella was understanding, and we remained good friends. Oh, actually, good sisters, because the principal adopted me after I left the organization. And I still visit the bakery often to hang out with Enola. Enola is so lucky to have a brother who takes care of her. I wish I could have one. No, sorry, I can't do that. Why? Because I'll take care of you in a different way.
Finally, my first day at school has come. Yay! This special occasion called for my favorite hoodie. Super cool, right? But then, out of nowhere, I was blocked by a group of boys and their cheesy pickup lines. No time for monkey business, but they wouldn't let me go. Hey, do you know who I am? Everything suddenly went blurry. Oh no, my glasses! I stumbled around trying to grab them back, but got shoved to the floor. Everyone scram! Gimme that. I looked up and vaguely saw my hero offering me a hand. He gave me my glasses and I profusely thanked him. But he just gave me a cold look and walked off without saying a word. Strange. Oh, by the way, I'm Hazel Palmer, 17 years old. But I'm not here as a student, but a teacher. Yes, you heard it right. Not to brag, but I'm kind of a genius. I even got offered a position in my college's research project, which I have rejected to pursue my dream of becoming a high school teacher. So here I am, on my very first day of fulfilling it. First, I was introduced to the other teachers, but unlike what I had in mind, they just threw me judgy looks. Luckily, after the meeting, a young teacher named Rebecca kindly welcomed me and even tipped me off about some of the rebels at school. Now, time to meet my students. As soon as I finished my introduction, the whole class immediately turned into a beehive. Miss, how about we continue this lesson at the movies tonight? Mullet, pierced nose. This guy must be the notorious Lucas that Rebecca warned me about. Please, as if you'd date someone who would wear such a goofy hoodie. Yeah, who let a weeaboo teach here? Jeez, I didn't expect this reaction. I tried to restore the silence, but to no avail. Ugh, I'm out of patience. Quiet, or else you'll all get Fs. Thank God it worked. Whew, that'll show them who's in charge. But here comes another problem. No way! There's gotta be someone who's really here to study, right? Okay, who is our class's top student?
Ethan!
Ah, didn't he help me in the hallway? But it looked like he didn't recognize me. Okay, let's see. Ethan, right? Could you solve this equation? Equation? I suppose spelling is a bit hard for a numbers person like you. And the whole class burst into laughter. Jeez, this guy was unbelievable. How about the second best student? Cassie Santiago? That name sounded just like my old classmates. I turned to the corner where an arm reluctantly raised. Oh my, it's her! So good to see a familiar face here. But why is she avoiding me? That afternoon, while walking to my car, I saw Cassie and her friends picking on a girl. Upon seeing me, they immediately ran away, but I managed to catch Cassie. Cassie, since when did you become a mean girl? None of your business. Report me to the principal if you like. Then she strutted away, leaving me standing there confused. Since when had the sweet Cassie ended up on the dark side? Turned out, not long ago, Cassie's father passed away in an accident, leaving her to live with her stepmother. This must left her in so much grief that she put up this cold, reckless facade as a defense mechanism. That's so sad. So, to make Cassie feel included, and also to improve this whole class's performance, I came up with a master plan. More homework, not finished, minus points. And every lesson will come with a gift. A test during recess, and I asked Cassie and Ethan to help the other students. But when I called Cassie to the board, strangely, she couldn't do a simple equation. At first, I thought that it was just her being rebellious, but during the test that day, I noticed her copying Ethan's answers. Does that mean all her A's were from cheating? Not only that, the even shocker thing I found out was that Ethan was her stepbrother. After class, I came to talk to her, but she didn't pay me any attention. Cassie, I know the secret behind your A's. High scores mean nothing when they're not from your own hard work. But out of my business. You're as much my friend as you are a proper teacher. I'd be pleased to tutor you. How about today? See you in the library after school. As if I care. Her words did hurt, but I guess she was just trying to keep her cold image. So I still waited for her, but she never showed up. No matter how much I tried, Cassie ignored me and kept cheating. During the midterm test, she even blatantly snatched Ethan's paper. It's true she's my friend, but I couldn't let it slide any longer, so I dismissed her test. That had to be done. On the same day, while I was in the library searching for materials, I heard familiar voices talking. Ms. Palmer is way too much. She even dismissed Cassie's test today. Can you believe this? Why can't she be understanding like you? Cut her some slack, Sadie. She's just doing what she thinks is best. So, that's what my students really thought of me? After everything I did to try and help them, yet all I got back was bad-mouthing? And Rebecca was so nice to defend me like that. No wonder they liked her. A few days later, the unexpected happened. Cassie, Lucas, and a few others came and asked for extra lessons. Finally, they started to have another eye on studying. But little did I know that it's just a ruse from my dear students to turn the following days into a nightmare. And the instigator was Lucas, I supposed. One day, I almost fainted upon finding a huge ant nest inside my bag. The other day, my pants were stuck to the chair with some gum. Fortunately, Ethan always showed up in time to help me. He's such a riddle. Unlike before, not only did he try to defend me in class, but he also helped me carry my textbooks. But I didn't expect him to care that much. One time, I saw him at the car wash where I worked part-time. I quickly hid behind a car, but Ethan just kept walking towards my wash box. I'm here to see you, so no need to hide. Let me give you a hand. After my shift, Ethan took me home. We talked a lot, and I felt comfortable enough to tell him about my mom's health condition, and how I took this part-time job to cover her hospital fee. This side of him was far different from the normal, and it was heartwarming. Suddenly, we noticed an elderly lady who seemed lost, so we offered to take her home. And guess what? She's the grandma of the notorious Lucas. I was truly surprised by how much of a rebel like Lucas cared for his Nana. I could tell he really loved her a lot. Poor boy. She's the only family he got now. Lucas, I know studying is not your thing, but have you thought about how happy your grandma would be if you at least tried? Since then, Lucas stopped causing me any mischief, and so did the other students. Now they could even do simple math themselves. Baby steps. Seeing my effort finally bore fruit, I set up a parent meeting to report students' progress. Halfway through my presentation, a photo of me cosplaying as Sailor Moon popped up on the screen. Oh my god, why is it here? How dare you let this childish thing teach my kids? Then she stormed off, followed by everyone else. I thought I finally had my students on my side. Turns out I never did. Then came the last straw, my mom's medical test results. I couldn't help but cry, letting all my bottled up emotions out. Then, suddenly, a hand laid on my shoulder. What's wrong?
My mom's health turned worse, and she needs an urgent operation.
I'm sorry to hear that. It's all gonna be okay. Be strong, Miss Palmer.
I appreciated him comforting me, and when I felt a bit better, we decided to leave. But the door was locked from the outside. It must have been a prank from my students. Again! We tried banging the door and screaming for help, but eventually gave up and waited for someone to come. This quiet atmosphere sure does have a way of making people open up, and I got to know about Ethan.
Seemed like both of us have problems with our beloved family.
What's yours?
I have a sister. You know who. That I really adore. But no matter how hard I try, she always builds a wall between us.
Oh, wasn't this the first time Ethan talked about his personal life? He always put on a cold and distant mask, but I knew deep down he had his struggles too. I was so absorbed in his story that I forgot about being locked up and gradually fell asleep, until a buzzing sound startled me, and countless phone cameras were pointing at us. Guys, check your phones. Look what Miss Palmer and Ethan have been doing this whole time. Oh my! A bunch of photos of me and Ethan had been uploaded on the school website, and from some angles, it looked like we were kissing. Oh no! I tried to explain, but they just threw me a disgusted look. And why was Ethan just standing here saying nothing? This soon reached the principal. He told me there would be a case hearing for inappropriate relationship with a student. How was this even possible? As I dragged my feet to the principal's office, suddenly I heard familiar voices shouting.
Why did you do that?
I told you to find her weakness, and look what you got. Nothing.
I've done everything I could. What else do you want?
Everything? Then why is she still here? As long as she's around, she messes up our cheating stuff, and Mom will get my head chewed off for being useless at school. Or is that what you want, brother? What? So, Cassie had been pulling the strings this entire time? And Ethan was her puppet, befriending me just to please his sister. I knew she hated me, but did Ethan have to be so heartless too? Cassie then caught my eye, so I ran away. I was still trying to process this when I walked in to see the school council glaring at me.
You're an insult to the teaching profession, which leaves us no choice.
I was ready for the worst when Ethan rushed in.
Stop! It was me who deliberately jammed the classroom's lock to get back at her for being too strict, but I accidentally got stuck too. There's nothing going on between us.
And so, I was cleared of all charges, and Ethan ended up in a week-long suspension. Why did he do that after all? After such a long trial, I drove around town to blow off some steam, then saw Cassie fighting with a security guard. I found out that Cassie stole a bracelet and was refusing to call her parents. The guard said he'd have to call the cops, so I came forward as her teacher to bail her out. Cassie asked me why I helped her, but I didn't bother explaining myself and just left. Since that day, Cassie didn't attend the extra classes. After his suspension, Ethan returned with his offhand attitude. No time to worry about those two. My mission now was to prepare my students for the upcoming finals and regain my prestige. Luckily, they started to take studying seriously and invested a lot in these tests. One day, when I walked into class, some students even asked me to help solve advanced exercises. 2 weeks later, when the results came, my excited students all rushed over to me. Miss Palmer, thanks to you, the questions were the same as the ones you showed us the other day, so it only took us a blink to finish. What are they talking about? Before I could understand, the principal summoned me to his office. As I entered, he angrily showed me the math sheet that I was allegedly teaching in the extra class.
What kind of work ethic allows leaking exam questions, Miss Palmer?
Leak the test? Me? No! Please!
No more excuses. You're fired.
No! They can't punish me for something I didn't do. Someone must have framed me. I asked my students where they got that piece of paper, and they said it was already on the table when they came to class. So Cassie and Ethan must have been behind this. Good job, Ethan, for putting up their remorse act just to set up a bigger plan to humiliate me. Okay then, they won. Unemployed and desperate, with hospital bills to cover, I had to work full-time at the car wash, as well as taking night shifts at 7-Eleven. But besides the measly wages was a bonus of rotten eggs and tomatoes, scornful looks, and snarky comments saying I didn't deserve the teacher title. The scandal truly turned my life upside down. Then, when I was at the hospital with my mom, suddenly Ethan rushed in and said he would clear my name. Clear my name? Wasn't he the one who put dirt on me? What was he playing this time?
With nothing to lose, I reluctantly went with him. He led me to the school's control room. The principal was also there. Then I saw Sadie standing on stage. Ethan said it was her who discreetly put the math sheet on the table. What? But, Rebecca? I distributed the test like you said, but I'm scared. What if someone finds out? Don't worry, now that Miss Palmer's fired, who else can dig this up? I'm only taking back my position as the beloved teacher who can take cover for y'all. No, I have to tell the principal everything. Who would believe you?
I would.
Furious, I rushed over to the stage and confronted her. Rebecca, I thought you were my friend. How could you? Don't ask me. Ask your phony self. Weren't you just trying to get the students to like you? What nonsense was she saying? I'm just doing my part of being a good teacher. How could she be so selfish and cruel? Out of jealousy? Miss Palmer earned her students' respect with her pure heart. Look at you. The so-called love you have comes from buttering them up with all your lies. That's why they turn stubborn and make light of studying. I never knew you were that kind of person. How could you call yourself a teacher? The principal couldn't hide his rage, fired Rebecca, then apologized to me and offered me my job back. But after all these troubles, this school had completely drained me. I couldn't take it anymore, so I refused. As I was wiping away my tears, Ethan came to my side. Miss Palmer, I'm sorry for everything I did. I just tried to please Cassie, but now I know I was only hurting you. I've already known about that. I was about to leave when a group of students led by Cassie approached us. Then Ethan told me it was Cassie who helped him with the plan to bait Rebecca into admitting her actions. Sorry for all the horrible things I did to you. Please stay. We've learned a lot since you moved here. Please don't leave us. Such a crazy term. I ended up staying. I mean, this is my dream job after all, and I'm not one to give up that easily. I also talked to Cassie's stepmom about her studying. Turns out she didn't realize her strict approach was causing a rift between them all. Cassie, Ethan, and their mom had a talk, and now they seem to understand each other better. I was so happy for them, and we became friends after that. Time flies, and now my students, or my friends to be correct, graduated, and would soon fly off to pursue their own dreams. Suddenly, Ethan dragged me to a corner. So from now on, we're no longer teacher and student, right? I guess, but could you still teach me? Teach me how to love you.
How long is this gonna take? So much for taking care of me.
Lex, starting today, I'm locking your phone and laptop away. Cruel! Isn't one leg cast enough punishment? Excuse me, you don't deserve to have a say in this. If you hadn't bought our daughter that death trap motorbike in the first place, she'd still be intact. Yeah, sorry for making sure she doesn't grow up boring like her mom.
Yeah, another lecture on how irresponsible I was eventually turned into a quarrel between mom and dad instead. They stopped only when mom needed to leave for her business trip in Egypt. I'm done arguing with you. I have a flight to catch. I've got my eye on you, young lady. All the way from Egypt? That's kinda hard. Well, at least Dad's here, so I won't be by myself. The next morning, I woke up to see a note stuck to the fridge. Alex, I'm shooting my new movie in Spain for a few months. There is a strict no-phone policy to avoid leaks. So if it isn't urgent, don't call me. Love, Dad. Seriously? Choosing work over me? Why am I still surprised? That's when you get when you have a world-famous actor dad and an award-winning photographer mom. They're rarely home, and whenever they are, they're constantly at each other's throats. All the more reason for me to hang out with my biker gang. I love motorcycles. They're my only getaway. But that's how I messed up my leg. In my defense, I could totally nail that trick and win their stupid bet, if it wasn't for that bumpy road. However, not a single one of my homies has checked on me since then. Not even my boyfriend Blake. But what's really bumming me out is that school's out for summer, yet I can hardly move. So, bored out of my mind, I came up with a new way to entertain myself, which was playing candid camera on this whole suburbia. Thanks to my mom's camera, I had eyes on the newlyweds Cunninghams on the right, the Carpenters on the left, a few other houses, and, Tiny Timmy across the street. I swear to God, I almost thought some hunky guy had just moved in. My childhood friend Tiny Timmy had officially grown into Timothy. He looked just like a muscular version of Timothy Chalamet. Then Tim suddenly sat up and we accidentally made eye contact. Awkward. Looking good, handsome? He's even cuter when he smiles. Oh, he's replying. Even better up close. That's bold, Timmy. Too bad, though. Sorry, lame. Tim looks confused at first. Then when he saw my cast, he immediately leaves the room. Huh? A broken leg is enough to scare him off? He's lame. Then the doorbell rang. Hey, that took a while. You're here? Of course, you need to have a closer look. And could use a hand. Or a leg. Yeah, come help this damsel in distress. From then on, Tim came over every day to help me out around the house. He'd been really helpful and even tried riding my motorcycle so it didn't have to sit idle for too long. Other than that bulked up body, he's still the friend I knew back in the day. We still had so much fun playing video games and watching movies together. You have to watch Bodies, Bodies, Bodies. It's nuts. Actually, I thought you might be into Lady Bird. Such a heartwarming coming-of-age story. Ew, no way. Timothée Chalamet is in it. Okay, sold. But how do you know that it'd sway me? I just do. Like how I know you spy on me from time to time, which, by the way, is super creepy. Yeah, right. As if he didn't intentionally leave his blinds open while working out. Mr. Shy Guy. One day, as usual, me and Tim were hanging out, when suddenly my dear boyfriend Blake made a noisy entrance. Babe, you won't believe this. There's a racing tournament going on in the Upper West Side. You have to come. What's going on here? Sup? What do you mean, sup? Who's this little brat? Oh, this is Tim. Tim, this is Blake. Say hi. Hi. I don't care. What do you think you're doing? Watch your tongue. You've been ignoring me for weeks, and now you show up raving on about some dumb street racing contest? You don't even remember that I broke my leg, do you? But, you're mine! Blake was fuming like a bull ready for battle and about to throw hands at Tim, but he stopped his fist midair. A defeated-looking Blake fled off as soon as he got out of Tim's grip. Coward. I apologized to Tim for dragging him into this mess, and he was surprisingly cool about it. Just curious, how did Blake and you become a thing? He's the leader of the biker gang, so I thought he was cool, but honestly, I never expected our relationship to last. Just like every other couple's. Exhibit A, my parents. I see. My dad's a good example as well. Then Tim revealed that his dad left his mom for another woman last year, which really upset him. I could relate so much to his situation. Maybe being locked up at home wasn't so bad after all, since we had the chance to catch up on everything. But the following morning, when I was chilling in my room, something horrible caught my eye. Something blonde. It looked like she was returning a hoodie to Tim. What kind of friend borrows a hoodie and acts like that around each other? Let's see what he has to say for himself. Who's that blonde? What was she doing at your place today? What? Who? She might look like strawberry shortcake, but don't be fooled. Whatever love you two might think you have will soon fade. That sweetness will turn sour in no time. Tim just burst out laughing. What's so funny? What made you think so? You don't even know Annabelle. Don't believe me? See for yourself. I then showed him all of the secrets I'd uncovered in our seemingly quiet neighborhood. First off, the couple from number 9 were both having affairs. The daughter from number 11 was using her boyfriend to hide her real relationship with another girl. And last but not least, the Carpenters, who seemed like suburban couples goal, actually had a far from blissful life due to Mr. Carpenter's drinking problem. In conclusion, there's no such thing as real love. I see your point, but on the other side of the spectrum, genuine love does exist. Tim points the camera towards the Cunninghams. I'm not buying their poster couple act. Then, one day, Tim said he had to work overtime at the library to prepare for an event with, you guessed it, Annabelle only. I had to hide my anger as I watched him drive off with Blondie. With nothing else to do, I decided to watch the Cunninghams. Geez, how could they seem so lovey-dovey all the time? I wanted to take my mind off of Tim, but the more I observed them, the more I thought about him with that Barbie. That's when I saw a book that Tim borrowed for me from the library. Looks like it's time to return it. I Ubered there, but there are many people here as well. Why did Tim say that the two of them would be here alone? Tim's face turned into the scream when he saw me. Didn't think I could get this far? Hi, don't mind me. I'm just here to return this. You should have just given it to me. Oh god, no. I can see that you're busy with Annabelle, isn't it? Yeah. How do you know my name? Oh, let's see.
You remind me of that creepy doll who's also an absolute nightmare. Tim then immediately dragged me away. See? He's caring for me, not you, Annie. However, the fun was interrupted right away when I saw Blake outside. Time for you to pay. Tim immediately stood between Blake and me, but to our surprise, Blake signaled for his goons hiding close by to show themselves. Clearly outnumbered, I tried to stop the situation from getting worse. Let's be civilized here. We can sort this out without violence. You're right, babe. We can settle this with a bet. Whoever can do the trick that broke Lex's leg and top it off with the Akira slide can have her fair and square. The loser has to back down. First of all, I'm not some kind of trophy. Second of all, that stunt is incredibly dangerous. Right, Tim? Sounds worth it, though. Have both of you lost your minds? Tim went first, and even though he flunked it, he managed to land without a scratch, while Blake landed on his face. Of course, that fiasco got the whole gang so embarrassed, they scrammed immediately. But I was still so annoyed. Congratulations, you won absolutely nothing. Not that I didn't care about him, I just couldn't stand his recklessness anymore. The next day, I was woken up by a doorbell. So, what are you here for? Sorry about last night. But if you stayed longer, I could have told you that I did what I did because I like you. Romantic styles. I don't even remember since when, but I do remember how sad I was when we stopped hanging out. Believe it or not, I started working out just to impress you. Whoa, what? Tim explained that nothing was going on between Annabelle and him. They were simply co-workers. And he made up that whole thing about being alone with her at the library to see my reaction. What do you say? I can make you believe in love. Tim, don't be ridiculous. Love isn't anything like the movies. It's merely a temporary chemical reaction in your brain that makes you think you're really feeling it. Come on, just give it a chance. No, look at my parents, your father, all the families in this neighborhood. If you ask me, your feelings for me right now will fade, just like mine with Blake. I'm sorry for wasting your time. I thought I was special enough for you to take a leap of faith. Now I know how wrong I was. He then left without another word. When Tim closed his blinds, honestly, I felt a sting in my chest. This is for the best, right? I can't deny the uneasiness I felt without Tim. It's not that he didn't want us to make up. I just didn't know how. Seeing how happy and smiley he was with her, my uneasy feeling only grew bigger. Is this what they call love? No. It's not real. Happy-looking families are not actually happy, and the Cunninghams are just good at faking it. What's that I'm hearing? Are they fighting? I saw the husband suddenly punch the wall with rage, then push the wife. I no longer had eyes on them, but could hear a huge commotion over there. What on earth is going on? Panicked, I called the cops right away. Wait a second, that means their happy marriage really was fake. I excitedly limped across the street to tell Tim about my discovery, then dragged him over to the Cunninghams' front lawn. However, when the cops arrived, both of them answered the door perfectly fine. Turns out they already knew about my spying, and were so annoyed by it, they decided to pull a prank on me. Great, my curious neighbors have also witnessed this whole humiliating ordeal. But the worst part was seeing the disappointment on Tim's face. You have to stop being so stubborn. Not every family is like yours. I couldn't say a word, not even when the cops gave me a warning. That night, I tossed and turned as Tim's words wiggled around my mind. Suddenly, something caught my attention. It's from Tim's house. Some flashlights were moving around. I tried calling Tim, but he didn't answer. Of course, he'd be in deep sleep by now. Calling the cops was useless because of that very recent embarrassing incident. That's it. I'm doing it myself. Out there on Tim's front lawn, my heart was beating like crazy. Thieves! Thieves! The startled thieves turned around, so I blared the air horn, then shouted, "Freeze! Stay where you are! Hands over your heads!" But obviously, I, a teenager with one working leg, never actually expected any criminal to stand still. They quickly got a hold of me, and right when I thought my life was over, "Get away from her!" Tim, thank goodness! Other neighbors also came and stopped the thieves. Tim called the cops, and this time they reported to the scene ASAP. Phew, that was insane. Mrs. Jones, Tim's mom, thanked me and invited me to stay the night.
It's really nice of her, even though she burst out laughing when I explained the situation with the Cunninghams. When Tim went to grab some drinks for us, she asked me why I was alone in this condition. So I spilled everything about my family. Contrary to her reaction just now, she showed me sympathy. From her experience, love didn't always have a happy ending, but it doesn't mean it's not real. Tim's dad and I had genuine feelings for each other. It's just that over time, things changed. We're open to accept this and be honest with each other. That's what real love is. I wouldn't change a thing, and I would still fall crazily in love with him, despite knowing we would eventually break up. Because that's how I got Tim, the second real love of my life. Her words hit different. Maybe I'd given love a bad name. You're right, love is not at fault, and Tim is so lucky to have a loving mom like you. Meanwhile, my parents don't just hate each other, they put it all on me too. Bet you, even tonight's incident won't make them care. I see where you're coming from, but why don't you just give it a try? Their reactions might surprise you. So I called them up, and guess what? They both sounded concerned on the phone and said they'd come home as soon as they could. See, I told you so. It's all right now. Timmy, please show Lex where she'll be sleeping. That was really brave of you. Being all heroic out there despite your whole situation. I wouldn't have risked my life if it wasn't for what? I'm all ears. For you. I'm sorry I overreacted. The thought of becoming a boring old couple who hate each other bugged me. But then I realized if we were together, we wouldn't have to be that. We could be like the Cunninghams. That doesn't sound too bad now, does it? I guess not. Next morning, I woke up to my parents' call. They actually kept their promise this time. My mom explained that she thought Dad was home to take care of me, while Dad absent-mindedly assumed Mom only left in a fit of anger and was going to return soon. So they really do care about me. They just have a terrible way of showing it. They stayed together, thinking it would be best for me. But the unending tension and bickering was eating us all up from the inside. This incident opened their eyes, so they agreed to have a peaceful divorce while still looking after me together. I'm finally free from the cast, but I actually feel even more liberated than before. Is this the power of my newfound belief in love? Is it because I've realized that love was around me all along? I'm not sure myself, but who cares? Alex and Timothy signing off.